This morning by Mr. Rista Ni Ama Mafio. It's been a while, Mr. Rista. Good morning. I hope you're fine.
No, I was here 2 weeks ago.
Oh, 2 weeks ago, but oh, okay, right. But I trust everything is fine.
Well, a few issues we will discuss. You know, I'm seeing some people for defamation on that.
We'll talk about that later. Mr. Rista, I'll have that conversation later. Without that conversation, you know my position on this. I mean, we'll have that. It's an internal affair. Even with you, not with Pan-African TV, but with you and then the other parties involved. You know it is an internal affair. So going forward, I'll implore you greatly that issue be resolved internally. I've also been joined by Dr. Jamal Mohammed. Doc, good morning.
Good morning, Obada.
I trust all is well.
By His grace, as usual, by His grace. When you wake up in the morning and you are doing well, then all is fine.
And how is the Koforidua Technical University?
As usual, my base is a serene place where I always share that love and bond with my colleagues, and the university is doing very well as well. My organization to ADRR is also doing very well. Koforidua is where calmness and serene could be found, and that is no doubt. You see most government functionaries finding themselves in that serene and that vicinity to have meetings and others. So they are always welcome.
Right. We've also been joined by Chairman Adekuka, former Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the National Democratic Congress. Good morning, sir.
Morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Good to have you. It's been a while.
Yes.
Right.
I'm around.
You're around. Right. It's good to have you in our studio. So without further ado, let's get into today's conversation. Pan-African Television is the only station that dedicates our very first story to an African conversation, and so any other story that is not Ghanaian but again African. And this morning we head to Uganda, and the story says Ugandan activists reportedly held by military chief shows sign of torture. That is the story. And once again, I'll be receiving your text messages. Make sure you do well to send them. Let me know what you think about all the stories that we have tabled for today's conversation. And so if you send them, you can send them through WhatsApp or through Facebook. Also, I want to believe that we have started streaming on YouTube, and so if you are not joining us on Facebook, you can as well do that on YouTube. An opposition activist whom Uganda's military chief Muhoozi claimed to have held captive in his basement has appeared in court visibly weak and showing signs of torture, according to the Justice Minister. Eddie Mutwe, who acts as the chief bodyguard for Uganda's leading opposition figure, Bobby Wine, went missing on April 27 after being grabbed near the capital, Kampala, by armed men, according to Wine's National Unity Platform, NUP party. Chief of Defense Forces, Kainerugaba, longtime President Yoweri Museveni's eldest child, said last week that he had detained Mutwe, writing on X that he had captured him like a grasshopper and was using him as a punching bag. Kainerugaba also alluded to Mutwe being tortured, saying he had beaten him and shaved his head. If they keep on provoking us, we shall discipline them even more, he said of the opposition. Mutwe was presented in court on Monday and remanded into custody on robbery charges, his lawyer said. In a statement released late on Monday, Justice Minister Norbert Mao said Mutwe appeared in court in a visibly weak condition and showing signs of having been tortured. Bringing illegally detained, brutalized and tortured suspects before the court of law is an abuse of judicial processes, said Mao, the leader of an opposition party who was appointed Justice Minister in 2022. Mao did not say who was responsible for Mutwe's condition, but called on the court to deal swiftly with the opposition figure's case. This is a very disturbing very sad story for that matter. It appears that the government of Uganda has been extremely high-handed in dealing with parties that disagree with it, and Bobby Wine's party appears to be suffering or to be bearing the brunt of the actions of the military or the defense in Uganda. Let me have your take, Dr. Jamal.
So when you look at Uganda in its entirety and looking at democratic processes, sometimes I say that we should not pretend that the form of democratic process that we want to do, or the kind of governance that we want to take as people. Uganda has not been today in the news where most people have had issues in terms of their rights being violated. It's been with us for a very long time, and it doesn't actually give Africa a green light in terms of where we are and where we want to get to. Mm-hmm. If you look at when I read the news, I was baffled. Why should they should even send a gentleman to the court? Because there was a delay between whether the gentleman was wanted by the state or wanted by the military. Because the gentleman was captured as if he's a fugitive who is evading being arrested. He was within the jurisdiction of the Uganda. That is one. And then two, the military chief who has to be the firstborn of the president I think I read it on X. And the question I was asking is that, how do you even take somebody and take to your basement and then bring him to court? And no, I still can't fathom why someone will reason that way. Yeah. He has captured him. The gentleman was taken beyond whatever his will, taken not to the police station or whatever, to his basement. Then at the end of the day, they bring him to court. On what basis? It doesn't tally. Because I think that if it is that the state is supposed to ensure that security issues are dealt with and everything is dealt with according to as expected, then the state perhaps would have done the arrests. And when state arrests, they will definitely have to go to court and seek to remand the person. This was not done. And so why on God's name will they even go to court? I thought they were going to talk about the fact that he should be released. And they are leveling charges against him. If even indeed he has even done, these charges were true, is it the military that has to do that? And so for me, I think that this is time that international communities, AU, not because they are going to pry into their domestic affairs, but there are certain injustices that even internally you may not be able to seek redress. Some of us have been privileged to meet people, have school with people who are from those terrain. Sometimes when you listen to them, you realize that we are not talking about democracy, we are talking about monarchy. That anybody who tries to do anything that seems to make the government unpopular, such a person will get the brand of the military, get the brand of the government. Look at what they did to Bobi Wine. To understand that day in and day out, he himself was arrested, beaten, and nothing happened. He ran away. Even at a point in time, he tried running to American embassy. The military had to seal the ground, then dealt with him, just because he wants to have power. So for me, the African Union must come out with what we call self-measurement checks and practices. That even if you have opportunity to govern people, there should be certain, like what they did in the African peer review mechanism, where they were peer review countries. I think this is time that some of these justice systems should be peer reviewed in such a way that when they go for their meetings, they should not just go and sit down and drink tea. That's not what I'm saying they are drinking tea. But in a more serious manner, we should be getting situational reports about internal happenings in countries. Because if you go for a meeting and you tend to give situational report, some people may have other contra opinion to what you are providing. And I think that will serve as checks on and balances on our governance in Africa. And it's, to a larger extent, it is sickening. Because assuming somebody's liberty has been trampled upon this way, and what the courts look at, even the justice minister, who is supposed to be seen as an opposition to the government, is saying that he should be handled properly. And so for me, I think that they must be seen to be dealing with some of these matters in a way that is proper and fair. And then human liberties and dignity should be seen to be one that is being upheld. Because what kind of world is this one? In a context where we expect people to be able to feel safe, feel humane, and able to do their work well, yet because of political expediency, people will be harassed, people will not be granted the freedom for which they are required. At least, per the news, the gentleman was highly tortured, and he himself has attested to the fact. Now, how will he secretly dress? That is a question I would like to pose. How will he secretly dress? Because the father is a president. He has the ultimate control. But why even the military doing that? What is the role of the police?
Exactly. That's the question. That's the question. That is the exact question. Right. Let me come to Mr. Richter.
You see, the sad situation in Uganda is a reflection of a number of events in other parts of Africa. Just our next door neighbor, Togo. Look at what they've just done. Now, Faure Gnassingbé is basically a life president in Togo, because he's now the primus inter pares among ministers, and they have a ceremonial president, effectively cutting out any opportunity for persons to express their choice in who leads Togo.
Yeah.
And in most of such instances, you have the military basically tribalized. So it's basically the same tribe that runs the military. The justice system is cowed, so you don't have the courts to be able to intervene. Even if they make pronouncements, those pronouncements would not be honored by the powers that be, the supreme, as it is in those instances. Let's look at a country like Cameroon. Paul Biya is basically a vegetable. He doesn't know how the country is being run, but he's the president. So people do things in the name of Paul Biya when he himself is unaware of himself. You remember he went for a conference and he was asking where he was and what he was doing. He didn't even know how he got there. Yeah. But this is the person who is the president of Cameroon.
And he lives in Switzerland.
he rules from Switzerland.
You get it. And then you have Museveni, who at his age, I'm sure dementia may have already set in.
Yeah, 80 years.
And he's completely not in charge. So his son has taken over and doing anything he wants to do. That is the danger when we allow military governance to entrench themselves and in some instances metamorphose into some form of civilian rule, when they basically hijack the entire state system and run the state apparatus as if they are their private property. Then the rule of law has no space. There's no governance. It becomes more like a private property. It is, I wouldn't say it's a monarchy, because a monarchy is a well-established institution and it took place within a certain rule. But with the kind of things you see in Uganda, there are no system, because if the son of the president could be made the head of the military, basically is being prepared to succeed the father, just like we've seen in some other African countries. And then he had so much power to capture somebody, and he put it, I captured him like a grasshopper. I remember when I was in secondary school, we were doing biology, we were asked to go and catch grasshoppers as part of our, and then went and we're just catching grasshoppers on the field because it gives you a lot of marks. So I know how to capture a grasshopper. You mean you captured a human being like a grasshopper, then you kept him in your basement and tortured him. I don't know what laws operate, but Uganda is also a Commonwealth country, and so also operate within they basically operate just like we operate in terms of their legal system. But then, I'm not privy to their constitution to know whether they have that 48 hours rule for which you need to release or send somebody to court. But even if that applies, you need to take the person's statement properly. The person is supposed to be charged properly by a competent state institution. Either the state or the police or the attorney general. He deserves to get all those. So if somebody captures him in his basement and decides to use him for a punching bag and then present him to court, but you see, because the judicial system had been cowed, it is now very difficult for the court to even make proper pronouncement. Because I'm not sure at that juncture the judge who was presiding over the matter even have the right to say he was granting the person the freedom. These are military people that had brought the person to court, not a proper state system. This is somebody who is a de facto president and has taken up the issue of capturing people, keeping them in his basement and presenting them to court. But it also tells you the failure of the African Union to be what it is supposed to be, what the framers of the African Union intended for us to have as a continent, in order that we are able to do things with some commonality. The African Union have failed. It had failed because as a people, we betrayed the people who had that foresight to get the African Union going. So the intent with which the African Union was formed to make it a power bloc, an economic bloc that protects Africa and make Africa a safe haven for Africans had failed. And that is why you have countries doing things the way they are doing, and there is no way of peer reviewing or peer checking what others are doing. Because I'm not sure when you are within the EU bloc, you could just do things the way you are doing and remain within the EU bloc, because there's a system that ensures that you obey human rights and all of that, and that makes you part of that fraternity. But you have an African Union where anybody can be in the fraternity, abuse the system, and then when they finish, they will line up and say they are going to meet with the G8 countries or the G20 countries to discuss development. So the African Union itself had failed to lead some form of development within the African region, and so it doesn't have the teeth to bite. It also has a set of leaders. These are the leaders that are within the Africa. You can talk about the Tsar of South Sudan and all those people who have been there and are only there because they want to protect their territory. They want to be there until they die. They even fear to die. They are afraid that the next moment they may die. Because if you're a president who could stand somewhere and then before you knew, he was peeping on himself, and he himself was not aware that he was peeping on himself, it gives you the semblance of what leadership we have in Africa and why we shouldn't allow the military to stay for long and metamorphose into some pseudo-civilian government and yet carry their military traits and treat civilians as if they don't matter and try to suppress any form of opposition. But you see, who are the people to make the change? The very African Union that is supposed to lead that change, the leaders are the people who are perpetrating some of these things. And that's why for me, as a country, we need to guide our democracy and protect it, because our democracy gives us some form of peace, some form of security as people. Right. Because I'm not sure, recently we had the MPP had their demonstration. Nobody was bothered. People have had their say. You may disagree with them, but you don't get the military getting in to exert such torture as we are seeing in Uganda. So it's a sad situation. If you call on the African Union to live up to expectation, that may not work. If you call on the international community beyond the African Union, they are happy with the way things are going in some parts of Africa, because it gives them the opportunity to loot, because some of these leaders are their stooges. And so if they are there and they are unaware of themselves, and somebody in France, in the UK or in the US is in charge in how you govern your country, and the least thing you run to IMF for them to dictate how you run your economy, they are happy. And that is why you have Museveni still being protected, and that's why Paul Biya could sit in Switzerland and still call himself the president of Cameroon, right, when he is not. That's why Foyi Nyasimbe could just turn the constitution around and decide that today is the chief of ministers and that there is a ceremonial president, and by that he is not even subjected to elections. That is why somebody like Alassane Ouattara will continue to do the things he's doing in Abidjan and continue to run the show. We need to have some form of revolution that changes all of this, and honestly, I'm very happy with what's happening in Burkina Faso, because there's a change that is affecting the people. It's not subjecting the people to this type of torture. But you see, you don't need to keep that for very long.
That's right. Right.
And we need such changes in other parts of Africa, with other African countries, just to bring back some form of liberties and democracy that allow people to express themselves.
Right. But thank you very much. Thank you very much, Richard Ni Matthew. Let me now come to Chairman. Also pick his thoughts on this latest development in Uganda.
Yeah. Let me say good morning to yourself and my colleagues here. Unfortunately, we have to situate this in the African context, Africa geopolitical context. My brother fortunately spoke my mind. We have a political system in Africa which is divided into democracy and dictatorships. And these two entities come together and form something called the African Union. So, who is going to build the cat? So when they go to this meeting, you have some of them being dictators in their countries and some of them having democracy in their country. So if those practicing dictatorship are misbehaving, who can stand up to them? And he mentioned Ivory Coast, Ouattara. Just in Ghana here, we are in the middle of two people who are what you call non-classical Democrats. Fua has just declared himself life president. Ouattara is just stifling the opposition because he wants to go for a third term. So they are supposed to have election in October. Where is the opposition? He just banned what's it called him? Ron Gbagbo's a party the other year. He just banned them. But so they've decided that they are now going to form a coalition. You know, and we are in the middle of it. That here in Ghana, we are practicing democracy. So in Uganda, this, our old man has been there for over 30, 35 years. His son is now preparing to take over. Which African state has come to condemn it? So, we are stuck in the middle. And like my brother said, you have these other political powers like the East and the West who have got interests in most of these countries. So they are ready to prop up those who are misbehaving or those who want to be democratic. Inverted commas, Burkina Faso, recently. This guy has come and is trying to turn things around. What is France and America doing? Had they not been the demonstrations that took place over the weekend, I'm sure by now you would have been toppled. So we are in a situation where the question is who is going to build the cat. So when such a torture is going on in Uganda, have you heard anybody speaking about it? No. Everybody is in his comfort zone. He doesn't want to come. He doesn't want to be destabilized. So the man has got a free day in Uganda, and if you look at all his utterances or actions in the past 20 years, he has stifled opposition. When he calls for election, he makes sure that nobody comes to contest, and he wins the election. Look at Gabon. This guy had 97%. And unfortunately, you had African leaders going there to have him sworn in. 97%. Let me take some water. Let me take some water.
Right.
So, Nyama, you don't have to go very far. Just 2 days ago, these South African countries, African government that trooped in, even our own president also went there. He had 97%. He was a military man, turned himself to, and then sat down. So he said, you want democracy? Okay, go and vote. And 97%. And this is Africa. So when you bring these kind of topics and you want us to discuss, I ask myself, I mean, we sit here and we speak good English, and that is going to happen. We ourselves condone it. We condone the dictatorships. AU or ECOWAS works with FUA in Togo, Ouattara in what do you call it, Côte d'Ivoire. Maybe Senegal, they have changed. That guy wanted to go to a third term, but the people fought against it and he lost the election. Gabon recently. So even the West Coast, how many of them are democracies and how many of them are dictatorships? So where we are now, Professor Mills will say, do we fear some? Do you fear some?
Right, thank you very much. Well, away from that, let's come back to Ghana, and a lot happening, especially regarding our judiciary. The Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono has been suspended by the President following petitions he received and forwarded to the Council of State. Let's look at the latest developments. Yesterday, the Supreme Court of Ghana, they struck out an application for the reinstatement of the Chief Justice. Now, there's been a lot of talks on the side. I know 2 days ago, the New Patriotic Party, they held a demonstration here in Accra. They presented a petition to Parliament and also to the presidency for the reinstatement of Madam Gertrude Tokono. And also, there's been some, I think yesterday, it was yesterday that some political parties also came out to say that they are in support of the actions of the president. And these political parties are the CPP, the Convention People's Party, the PNC, that is the People's National Convention, the Ghana Freedom Party, which is the GFP, the Great Consolidated Popular Party, that is the GCPP, and the All People's Congress, I guess APC. And so these 5 political parties have also come out to throw their weight behind the president, and they believe that he's on course, he's following the dictates of the 1992 Constitution, and he hasn't contravened any provision that has been stipulated in the Constitution of Ghana. But the new panel, or that panel, that was constituted by the acting Chief Justice, it was sternly opposed by the former Attorney General Godfrey Yeboadami, and his argument is that the acting Chief Justice is an interested party, that he has an interest in this particular matter, and so it was wrong for him to have chaired, that new panel. I'm going to start with Chairman on this particular conversation. Your thoughts so far?
Let me start from where you ended. That the Attorney General was opposing.
The former Attorney General.
The former Attorney General was opposing the current acting Chief Justice to be the president of the panel. You remember there was a case in court where Alormasor raised an objection for Justice Gao to the same Attorney General. Today said no, there was no problem, but he had the right to be on the bench, on the panel for the case. You see, the hypocrisy in this country is what is killing us. The hypocrisy. Today is good, tomorrow is bad, because it affects, it's not in your favor. So when I listened to him yesterday on that, but you were the same person, then you should go back and play what you said when the other side, when Sorry was asking Gao to be recused from the panel. And the Supreme Court just said, well, once he has been vetted by Parliament, he's entitled to be on the bench. He's a Supreme Court judge. So he sat on the bench. You understand? So I don't see why you are raising the same issue regarding and true to form the other justices, they just dismissed them. But the question we are asking is, I want someone to tell me that President Mahama has infringed on the Constitution. And I will join a demonstration if you can prove to me that President Mahama has infringed any of the provisions of Article 146, which deals with how certain officers in the judiciary should be moved, or any other person in government, or Article 71, person must be removed from office. Don't forget that the president can be impeached. The speaker can be impeached.
Yeah.
So nobody in this country is above the law. And here's a situation where individuals have sent a petition. So you go back. When a similar situation happened in this country, what process and procedures took place? And don't forget that petition against the CJ, against the Chief Justice, did not start in President Mahama's governance. Before President Akufo-Addo left office, there was a petition against the Chief Justice. And what did they do? He said it was a conveyor belt. So he sent it to who? The Council of State. And the Council of State deliberated on it. And then what happened? They said there was no merit, and they advised him. And so this is not the first time the Chief Justice is being petitioned against. So all these controversies going on, I keep saying that, and I keep asking, is it because President Mahama is from Azerbaijan? That is why people are kicking against the process and procedure is going through. Because he's following the dictates of the Constitution. The people say that he should exercise what? Discretion. He has no discretion in this matter. There's no discretion. The Constitution does not give him any discretionary powers. It tells him exactly what he should do. And this case that went to court, you know, Justice Kulendi asked, what's his name, the former Attorney General, that he should indicate in the Constitution where time, when if a petition is sent to the President, a copy must be sent to the Chief Justice. He asked that question. That it should show him in the Constitution which article says that when a petition is brought to the President must send to the Chief Justice for her responses or his responses before action is taken. He couldn't answer. He was telling the spirit and whatever of the Constitution. So we have decided to bury our head in the sand like ostriches in this country, right? When the fire is on somebody's leg, that one there's no pain. But when it's on your leg, that one, hey, they start crying wolf. So I find the whole thing, in the first instance, President John Mahama is not sacking the Chief Justice because President Mahama hasn't written any petition against the Chief Justice. It's Ghanaians who the law allows them to do it, and they have brought it. And in the case, the procedure is ongoing. A 5-member committee has been set up. So we are waiting for the findings of the committee. For all you know, the committee might even exonerate her. So why are we running before walking? All these things that we are running before walking. But the committee must come out with a finding. And if the finding says that she's innocent, she goes back to her work. But unfortunately, where we have reached now, what we have done to ourselves and what we have done to the Chief Justice, I think it's morally, for her own sake and for the sake of this country, just to take a pen and paper and write that she has retired. And the government will negotiate his retirement package. And then move on, so this country moves on peacefully. That is why even Nyaho Tamakro, a stout member of the New Patriotic Party, has asked that question. In Ghana, we seem not to have the culture of resignation. You see what is happening? Do you think if it's in Uganda, if it's in Uganda, you will survive it? You see that? You see why dictatorships and all those kind of things arises in the other countries. You know, simplicity. If it's me, I take a piece of paper, say, look, come and take your job. I will do it again. And all this going to court, going to fight demonstration, and the minority leader beating a policeman, and all these things, you know, and then coming back to lie that, oh, the man beat me, and they had to put water on me, they had to take me to some corner for me to rest. I mean, all these lies, and the children are watching us. Our children are watching us. If in this our age group, we keep lying, people are bored, don't come and sit on television and lie. We have all been demonstration. If somebody has been beating you, the force and the veracity in which Afenyo Market was speaking on television, if somebody was traumatized and had to have water poured on him, the man had no sweat even on his face. No sweat, because he wasn't working. He sits in the car, when the television cameras are coming, then he gets down, pretend as if he's working, and then he gives interview, and then go back to sit in his car, fooling the people, bringing them from Winneba, giving them placards, where they don't even understand what is written on the placards. This is Ghana. This is what is happening to Ama Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana. Have you seen how far we've sunk? Have you seen how far we've sunk? And all this thing, then eventually they go to court, the case is already moot, and then they go and withdraw the case. So if somebody had died yesterday or 2 days ago, on the the demonstration. You go to court. You knew you were going to what discontinue the case, and you allow this to go on. So if somebody had died yesterday, 2 days ago, he had died in vain. He had died in vain, and this is what is happening. The government is only today is 120 days of the government, and I think what we should be talking about is that in the past 120 days, has there been any shift in the needle in this country? Have we shifted? And if we have shifted, is it on the right path? Are we getting somewhere? Are we going to get our children to get jobs to do? Are we going to ensure that this country, posterity, when we are gone, don't come and dig our graves and hang us on the walls of this country for destroying this country? And we talk about this as if somebody is above the law. Nobody is above the law. We should let the process and procedures continue. The finality will be when the 5-member committee, who are Ghanaians, the peers of the Chief Justice and all of us, give us a determination. And when it is in a favor, if anybody is going to misbehave, we shall all go on demonstration for the findings of the committee to be upheld. The president is just a conveyor belt. This is not as far as I'm concerned, we shouldn't start playing the political game and what do you call it? Try to bring in electoral commission, the woman at the charge. People have gone through the processes. Now people are saying, oh, as for the judiciary, they are an equal arm of government, so they cannot be taxed. Who told you that? Who told you that? Everybody in this country is subject to the Constitution. That's the supreme law of this country. Even the president himself, if he messes about, we shall impeach him. That's what the law says. You understand? So nobody's above the law. Let's let the and it's good that we are testing our Constitution for 36 years that it's been going. Things like this will fortify the Constitution. They say that they need constitutional amendment. As far as I'm concerned, we don't need any amendment. The only amendment we need is that those parliamentarians where we have 50 plus 1 ministers coming from the parliament, that is what we should amend. If you want to go to parliament, go and be a lawmaker. Don't go and be a lawmaker and a minister. Right. That is what we should amend. But apart from that, everything is working perfectly. Everything is working, at least. We can tweet it here and there. But this constitution has really stood the test of time. Previous constitutions go for 2 years, 3 years, and there's a coup. This one, because it was written by the common people, these legalistic gymnastics were virtually 146 is very clear. 146 from clause 1 to 11 or 12 is very clear. There's no ambiguity. There's no ambiguity. So let's allow the process to work. Let's respect the constitutional provisions. And anybody who violates the constitutional provisions, all of us must be on the streets to ensure our democracy. But now the judiciary is working. The judiciary is not under threat. When you go to the courts this morning, the judges are working. Everybody is working. The court is, yesterday the Supreme Court, they sat. You were talking about the membership. If you look at those who sat on the case, which party appointed them? Did you see any NDC appointee there? No. And it's working because these men are men of conscience. You can say this is a case that involved their peers, a member of them, and they were able to deliberate without fear or favor. And this is how the Constitution should be allowed to work. You understand? So please, we should just, MPP, for that matter, should just tone down. And I'm saying that they just left power. Today is about 5 months ago. they should rather come and apologize to us for their stewardship in the last 8 years. Look, where you had pensioners having to go to picket, and some were in wheelchairs, some of them had strokes. All their savings, bond is supposed to be the safest investment in any country. You know the Karma man, Mr. Obion, you know what he said? He has worked so many years, and because of what the government did, he lost all his money. He couldn't access his funds even to pay for his medical bills. He's dead. You sunk $58 million in a hole. Baumia is saying it. Some $58 million now, which could have built a children's hospital and other hospitals. You left a debt in this country, and look at the looting. A young man, allegedly, a young man working at the signals or whatever, is able to buy 24 or 29 houses, has 60 cars, 60 exotic cars, embezzled almost $7.9 million. 41-year-old, I mean, Niama and my brother sitting here. When you look at us, it means that we have not worked in our lives. We have not worked. And Niama can't even get himself some, is it a Maserati or whatever it is?
You're talking about Maserati. You're going to say Beats. I'm thinking you're going to say Beats. You're talking about Maserati. Beats, I'll struggle to buy.
You understand?
So now Beats is 90,000 Ghana cedis.
You see, and then this guy has 60 exotic cars in his house. The wife goes to market in one car, she comes back, changes herself, uses another car. In a day, she uses about 4 cars. And these are the kind of things that the previous government allowed to happen. Our former finance minister, he's chilling in the U.S. What's the name of the hospital? Something Monty or some chilling in the hospital. He didn't build hospitals here, so that when he's sick, he'll chill in the hospitals here. You understand? But he's chilling in the hospital in the U.S. And he is telling us when he's ready to come and answer charges. What kind of country is this? And then we go on demonstration. The demonstration was very childish. The demands were so childish. Ask the president of the country, who has traversed this country 275 or 76 constituencies and had been voted for, then you come and give a resolution that is change this by virtue of what? What mandate? She asked them, what mandate? What mandate? Who gave you that mandate? You are lucky you're in democracy. If you're in Uganda, go and demonstrate. If you go and demonstrate in Uganda, right. And you will see. So you should thank God that here in Ghana, we believe in democracy. And right. Allow people to do whatever they want to do.
Thank you very much. I'll do some messages. The minority leader and co must be arrested and charged for trying to circumvent the constitution. This one came from Baba in the Sagnarigo constituency in Tamale. Thank you, Baba, for your message. This one here also says, good morning to you and your panelists. You see how dangerous it is to pack the court with judges whose political affiliation is widely known. You see that Justice Gao dissented because the suit was filed by an MP who belongs to a party he once contested on its ticket as a parliamentary aspirant. When President Akufo-Addo was in power and Afenyomakin went to the Supreme Court about 4 seats declared vacant by Honorable Bagbin, did he dissent? Ghanaians are also making their judgment on the issues that to the public domain, and it's been discussed by a panelist. Simon from Bato sent this one. Thank you, Simon, for your message. Samia from Accra says the President should rather sell the 2 vehicles and add the money to the Mahama Cares project. As you speak, the National Health Insurance Scheme pays only about 10% of cost of treatment and medication in our government hospitals, and in some cases you pay 100%. Very personal experience even this week. Sami from Accra sent this one. Thank you, Sami. This one here also says that good morning to you and your panelists. I'm Mutala from Salaga. The CJ must resign to save her from disgrace, and also the police must deal with Apenyo Marken for beating a policeman as MP. Very shameful act. If not, we the citizens will also start beating up the so-called MPs. Well, that's not going to happen. Good morning to you and your panelists. This is Adam Kola from Tamale Central. Bless, you see about the issue of CJ, MPP should stop disturbing Ghanaians. President John Mahama will never return this lady. So if you want, you can do whatever you like. My regards to Honorable Aduna Gagdu and Honorable Samuel Nati George. Okay, thank you very much, Adam Kola, for your message. Good morning, Pan-African TV. I like your conversation. Thank you very much for the compliment. Good morning, host. I think you should draw Miracle's attention that Ghanaians are wide awake and can reason between lines. Ghanaians are angry anytime he sits behind the screens. Chris from DBI. Okay, thank you, Chris. Good morning. Good morning to you and the panel. The reset is unparalleled, restoring confidence in the judicial domain. The assertiveness of H.E. John Mahama and the Able Council of State that acts as advisory body to him, H.E. John Mahama, has reposed public trust and confidence to the populace. A new breeze of fairness, a new breeze of justice, a new breeze of integrity has swept the judiciary. Greetings to Honorable Alessegbefia, Chief of Staff to the Vice President, Honorable Amanda Oche, Deputy Director of Logistics and Protocol, Joel Yemible, Upper Town in Axim. Okay, thank you. Good morning, Bless. The CJ has decided to sack herself by making the petition public, which per the constitution says must be done in camera. So now if she's to go back to office, can she work with dignity? She's sacking herself, being supported by the MPP. But for the MPP, they are fighting for their lives because of oral and nothing else. From Kaiser, a.k.a. Martin Pebu, the second in Techiman. Okay, all right, thank you. Now let me come to Doc. Doc, let's hear from you on this matter.
Right, so, when you look at our judiciary system as one of the most important arm of government, we usually will tout them as part of their contribution in building the multi-party democracy that Ghana is yearning for. And over the period when people aspire their interest to use a court system to demand justice and to be able to, as it were, get whatever they think that they want to get through appropriate means, we say that the justice system is doing well. But what is happening now is a very fundamental thing. Yesterday I asked, if you look at the contention, especially when Godfrey Damis talk about the fact that the Bafoboni stood to gain or benefit from being the one acting as a Chief Justice, and at the same time Justice Tokono being asked to step aside. Sometimes what I've realized is that over the period, when you begin to incur the wrath of judges, it turns out to be negative on you. And I think that is one of the reasons why the case panned out like that yesterday. Because people keep insinuating that Bafoboni had issues with Tokono, the fact that he felt that he was there. But for me, the onus lies in the swift nature in which they dealt with this. Because if they had delayed, it could have also led to other issues which we hitherto would have not expected. So the minority went on rampage, they went on demonstration, they went on demonstration, and then matters that came after thereof. And then the court was able to handle something very important. One of the things, I think I listened to some panelists last night, one of the most critical things that I saw yesterday is that when a court begins a process, okay, or when a panel is seated in attempt to adjudicate a matter, the the fairness is that you do not change the panel. I think this is one of the issues that yesterday they talk about the fact that why would there be a reconstitution of the panel and all those things. And I listened to one of the, what do you call it, lawyers I very much respected in Ghana here. And he made a point that issues happened and the first committee that was constituted, or the panel that were constituted, never sat. So it means that automatically there could be a possibility of reconstitution. And if that is so, then we saw that one, as to whether there had been violation in the process of constituting judges, as to two, whether the Supreme Court actually erred in its own self. And so for me, I think that in all, in terms of the processes by which the Supreme Court took this matter, and the fact that each party who were being heard on, I think it was very much good for democracy in general. What I will advocate is that the judges or our justices at the Supreme Court should be seen to be taking decisions on matters based on certain belief. And I think there was a time I made mention of that. When you go to United States of America, you can tell that Justice A or Judge A is pro-abortion. Judge B is that. Judge C is that. But in our case here, and I keep emphasizing that in our case in Ghana here, someone nominated to the Supreme Court, the person is on the bench. When they come, they go this way. When they come, they go that way. You get it? And it seems not to be emphasized on some decisional basis that is a held view by the judge. I don't know what I get him. So, for example, we could have somebody who are pro, let's say, accountable democratic judge, who feels that I think that the processes is right, and so we are supporting the process. But in Ghana here, it allows the citizenry to be able to play into the minds of people, and at the same time infer in the behavioral tendencies of a judge by saying that Judge A was appointed by Party A. Judge A will vote for Part A. And when you follow it, it happens. So the question is, how do we deal with some of these things? So for me, I think that as part of this constitutional review, if we don't deal with these matters of the judiciary, in the near future, this is the kind of democracy that we regarding jealously will not work properly for us. Because you see, the liberties of people in a country depends on, to a large extent, how impartial a judge is in dispensing judicial duties. And this is the case, you hear people say, oh, this particular judge is on this ticket of this political party, has been appointed, will behave the way. Even at the lower court, in fact, this thing come to the media, right? That's when we are seeing this. At the lower courts, where people or judges tend to have inclination to political parties, they make certain judgment, and you could read. When you read, sometimes you read cases and you look at it, this case is not even supported. If you look at the decision of the judge, you realize that the judge, I wouldn't want to call it bias, but the judge decision on or arriving at this decision was influenced by something external, not actually the dictates of the law. And so for me, what happened yesterday was just the victory for democracy, where people who believe that civil dispensations are very important in getting things done. And so they went to court, and the court took a decision. Another issue that also came to mind had to do with the fact that there used to be like a unanimous FC, there used to be. And if you look at, for example, the first issue about getting Bafuboni out, you saw how the response of the justices there. They felt that he could stay because of the fact that he is assumed to be impartial. So going forward, I think that our justices, this is just a candid advice, I think that our justices should be able to have that kind of personal integrity that they live by, that this person is this. And for example, if you take time to read some write-up, or this gentleman's Justice Yule Kulinde, I've read some of, when we were at the law school, you read some of these things, and you realize that he writes I'm singling out because I took the opportunity just to monitor and look at his demeanor. He seems to feel that whatever that you do about the constitution that he thinks that is affronted, he will not support you. And that is why he actually singled out to ask him that he should tell me which part of the constitution that you are alleging that the president should have looked at the timing, the speed with which the time should have been done. And he said he could not even prove. He said, oh, it is based on the letter and spirit of the constitution. You understand? So he has decided that this is how I want to tow my line. Even though he seemed to have been appointed by A, he still wanted to look impartial, or he's working to become to stand impartial in the midst of some of these things. Because Ghana, you can easily be tagged, and you can look at some of the justices. Look at Justice Gao. Let me put it this way: you could see that even before that in the social media, we saw what people were saying, and it came to pass.
But he had contested the primaries, the parliamentary primaries of one of the constituencies under the ticket of the NPP.
And then for me, my challenge is that they should have something that they stand for as a judge. A judge should have a belief pattern that I believe that this is how I live my life.
Devoid of political
thought. So you could give an opportunity to serve. And whilst I'm serving, this is the way I live my life. And even when you bring your issues to me, you know this is how this gentleman is. And that is why in democracies, they always believe that the Supreme Court is the Supreme Court. So in the United States of America, even Trump appointing a judge come before the judge, and the judge disagrees with him. And he goes home. He doesn't say, he knows that the judge has his own issue, his own kind of issues that he stands by. And that is what I think that our justice should stand by, so that we will know that if in this constitutional dispensation, this judge behaved this way, so that even when you are appointing the person, personal integrity should be one. Two, the person's considered effort in ensuring that democracy thrives should be something that should be upheld. Unlike a two-tier approaches where people can easily predict that because Mr. A has appointed Judge A, this is going to be the character of Judge A. And he actually has been that. But yesterday, I want to be all in all, we have had people who believe in democracy, both the government side being the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General representing the state, and then the minority being the former Attorney General representing his client, for them to be able to do this in a civil manner. And I think that is all in all, that is good for us in terms of democracy.
Thank you very much. I agree with everything that you have said. I mean, improbity should not find a space in our judicial system, regardless of, like you said, whichever president appointed you to be there. You should be seen to be working for the Ghanaian people and not for a certain political party. Thank you very much. Let me say a hearty good morning to Patience Apana, who is doing the watching from the Koku Research Institute Guest House. Thank you so much for your time this morning. And to Mr. Stephen Peng, doing the watching all the way from Wa in the Upper West region. Thank you so much. I'll continue to take your messages, keep them coming. But in the interim, let us listen to Mr. Rishtaniaba Matthew on this matter.
I wish we were not discussing this matter again, because it's been overflogged. Yesterday they were in court. I was surprised they were asking the acting Chief Justice not to sit on the case, because you see, laymen like us know that with the case of Tufo and Attorney General, Justice Palo, the court held in clear terms that the Chief Justice presides over all courts. And that's what the Constitution says. The Chief Justice presides over all courts in Ghana. So, once he's the acting Chief Justice, he's the Chief Justice. And so, him presiding over and empaneling judges, even if the matter concerns him. And I think, was it one of the justices, there was a case recently, even under the 1992 Constitution, wanted to, and they had a case against one of the Chief Justices, and then they said that he couldn't empanel the judges, and then the court held that that is his constitutional mandate and that no other person could perform that mandate once he still remains the Chief Justice. So, to me, that matter shouldn't have arisen at all. So, it's good it was dealt with, and there was some unanimity on that subject matter, and that basically kills that issue. On the issue of the president not doing justice to the former Chief Justice, taking it from the former president, the president is a conveyor belt. The former chief, the suspended Chief Justice is fortunate to have the president yielding to her demand to give her the petition in order that she would study it and respond before a prima facie case is established against her. Now, for me, that fulfills that part of natural justice for the opportunity to be heard, because it means that before the Council of State decided on establishing a prima facie evidence, they had also considered the responses to the allegation, and so they may have looked at it side by side before deciding and voting. And from what we heard, it was unanimous, except that the former Chief Justice decided to abstain. And it's understandable when she decided to abstain, because that is an office she had come out of, and she wouldn't want to sit in that course and make a decision as to what happened to her colleague on the bench. So it's fair if she decided to abstain. But she will have a day with her own colleagues, because this is a panel that is chaired, at least you have 2 Supreme Court judges on the panel, chaired by a former colleague. She will have a day to let them hear her out. I don't know why we want to make this an MPP-NDC fight. It has nothing to do with MPP-NDC. Under former president, current president John Mahama, when he was president, he removed Loretta from Sraj, Lamti, from Sraj. That was somebody who was appointed by an NDC government. There was a petition against her for administrative lapses. He went ahead to remove her when the evidence were clear. So it's not the first time somebody who is occupying a constitutionally protected office has been removed by a sitting president. We saw what happened with Charlotte Osei. And even with Charlotte Osei, she was, up to today, we do not know who the petitioners were. Nobody has the benefit of the full petition that caused her removal. But she was removed. And you see, I get worried when you have civil society institutions that are supposed to hold governance accountable, keep quiet under some regime, and suddenly jump into the fray when other regime takes office. When that happens, they lose their relevance. Because we saw a number of things that happened under the MPP, where you were expecting the Bar Association, the TUC, and others to get on and be part of shaping the democracy. Even this Galamsey fight, TUC, when they said they were going, organized labor, when they said they were going to, if there was no state of emergency, they were, last minute they just decided to pull out. And that is one of the reasons the fight against Galamsey has been very difficult to today. So we have a country that we are building. We must be fair to all manner of people. People should not just decide that when it is this government, even if they are doing it right, we'll have issues with it. Because, look, we all saw it coming when some decisions that the Supreme Court were making were strange. Look at this birth certificate issue. Because the very ordinary Ghanaian still doesn't understand how that decision was made. that you cannot use your birth certificate as a base document to be identified as a citizen. And we saw the vetting, the questions that were coming, because there must be something to identify you. How would a national ID be more authentic when you can only get national ID when you are at this stage about 15 years old? That is where your identity as a Ghanaian should be established. Yes, citizenship is by parentage or grandparentage. But how do you establish the parentage or the grandparentage? There must be some document. And you see, it got a lot of people worried because that had been the base document. So people, what was their intention? And a number of decisions that have been made by and probably Mr. Chachikata, when he said, when you sow the wind, you reap a whirlwind, was being prophetic.
Yeah.
Today, we are having people go through the very things that they exacted, and they are not comfortable with it. They had a demonstration, and they had it peacefully. The Jubilee House area or the Flagstaff area was not declared a security zone, for which reason they could not get close. They went as close as they could. They had somebody come to receive the petition, and there was a response. And it was not me, a person, it was a deputy chief of staff who received the petition. They went to on a demonstration to the Electoral Commission, and there was nobody to receive the petition. At some, Aruna was shouting that the police can take the. They went to Bank of Ghana, and look at how the Bank of Ghana described our members of parliament, hooligans. That's what the governor of Bank of Ghana described the members of parliament that we have elected to represent us in parliament. So you see, we've had a system, and people have been in leadership, and they've taken the country as if it was their private property. The way the defeat came, the way the governance system had changed, it's making a lot of people uncomfortable. Some people, they will have to have their protection in the courts. Yes, that is where we should all have our protection. But we should have our protection when we follow due process. The court must not be seen to be biased or friendly towards some people and then hostile towards some people. Look at how Chachichikate's judgment came up and was thrown to jail. Even he was not given the opportunity to get his lawyer to come into court, and he was told that he himself is a lawyer, so he could jump in. And meanwhile, the Constitution says you can have a lawyer of your choice. It didn't say when you're a lawyer, you are supposed to be in there to be defending yourself. But and Justice Rita just threw him into jail, just like that, with a stroke of the pen. And so, you see, we've had the judiciary had seemed to have a certain way of doing things when one government is in power, and a certain way of doing things, and it creates the impression that somebody sits somewhere and dictates to the judiciary. I've heard the former Chief Justice Sophia Koku made the argument that the processes for removing the Chief Justice doesn't seem fair, and that it makes it easier for the Chief Justice to be removed. The truth is that that it's not the same for the Speaker and the President. In fact, the Speaker is elected by members of Parliament in Parliament. And so his removal is by members of Parliament in Parliament. And because he who appoints must have the power to revoke. When it comes to the President, the people elect the President, but the people elect members of Parliament as their representatives. So it's Parliament that goes through the process of impeaching the President, which is the representation of the people. The Chief Justice doesn't go through elections. He or she is a career person that rises to that level and appointed, because the Chief Justice is the primus inter pares, and appointed from amongst his or her colleagues by the President in consultation with a number of institutions and prior approval of Parliament. And so when it comes to the removal, the petition should go to the person who does the appointment, so that I go back through the process and consultation with the very people. Probably the only state institution that's missing in the equation is Parliament, which then gives prior approval. Probably at some point we may say, okay, can we have Parliament? But you can't have the Bar Association that is an association and is not a state organization to decide how a Chief Justice is appointed or removed. Because the Bar Association doesn't take its mandate from the Ghanaian people. The Bar Association takes its mandate from its members who pay dues to the Bar Association. It may have an opinion because it works within the judicial system. But the Chief Justice is appointed as a state person and appointed by an establishment, the president, through some consultation. So the removal, I feel, should go through similar processes to get the Chief Justice out. And like I'm saying, if we could bring in Parliament to, in the process, probably to consider at some point what may happen, maybe those who are doing the constitutional review may look at that. But certainly somebody must appoint the Chief Justice. There are almost all these the constitutional bodies like SHRAJ, like the Electoral Commission. The heads and the commissioners are appointed by the president, but they derive their powers from the Constitution, and they are protected by the Constitution. And so removal is not just by the stroke of pen, just like the president may pick a pen and remove a minister that he appoints directly without any explanation, or remove a chief executive of a corporation that he has appointed. These people are protected by the Constitution, and so the removal process is not the same. So we need to appreciate the fact that the president had followed due process. The president had given the Chief Justice all the respect that is due her. Is giving the Chief Justice the opportunity to respond to the petition, and she will have a day with a counsel of her choice to meet with the panel that had been established to look into her case. I'm sure she's free to call witnesses to testify on her behalf. And I'm sure she may be given the opportunity to cross-examine persons who have brought the petition against her to be able to make a case. If she makes a case, these are justices who are masters of the law, who understand the law. If they feel that she's made a good case and the president has to reinstate her, why not? She's a Ghanaian. She should be reinstated. If they feel that she doesn't make the cut and has to go, other Ghanaians are ready to fill her position.
Right. Thank you very much. I'll do some more messages. Then would look at our first. The president's 120-day social contract, which comes to an end today specifically, right? And so let's continue with some messages. Good morning, Bless. Okay, good morning, Bless. Apengu Makin is a dangerous man in Ghana. He is not patriotic and practices bad politics. It is lies that is dealing with Baumia. He should also go on the path of his political career, and it might end miserably. Okay, Kaiser said this one. Thank you, Kaiser. Good morning, Pan-African TV. I'm Jabo from Kanewu, Tema West. With a very critical look and a good study of the NPP, I wish to ascertain strongly that the NPP is not a political party as we think. It is a cloud of evil-minded invaders on a rampage with such following that marvels every good-thinking human being. But my true anger is against all regular panelists who refuse to see clearly the character, the actions and the atrocities of the NPP through the eyes of the law. The level of corruption we saw in the past 8 years must be seen as a gross economic sabotage against Ghana. Their actions and utterances must be seen and classified as treasonable felony against Ghana. Has anyone ever mentioned these two words on this platform? Okay, thank you very much. Suleiman Seidu sent this one. He says, good morning, bless. It says, good morning, bless. I'm Suleiman Seidu from Jema in Kintampo South. Please tell the minority leader not to rush for early imprisonment for the right ECG imprisonment is waiting for him at the right time. Okay, thank you so much. All right, so we have some 15 minutes more. Let's quickly, briefly, some 3 minutes each will do. Let's look at the president first 120 days in office. Dr. Jamal, what would you score the president? I've just seen a post by one MPP communicator who says she would score the president 45% out of 100. But let's look at some of the things that the president has done so far. He's launched the free sanitary pad policy.
If you look at all of that, the president is level just putting in the 24 hours economy. I think that is one of the major, and then the e-levy, the COVID levy, which I think is already will be approved in principle. I think these are just the major things which are left. If you look at the 120 social contract, I think they've more done everything. So I would say for now 70 over 100, because the 24-hour economy is a major policy drift that requires that the president should be able to fashion out those policies in that direction. And so for me,
so the 24-hour economy takes away that 30%.
Yes, it's look,
it's vital.
If it is done properly and with all, you see, it's a major policy that can shift and push this economy beyond what is expected.
Right.
So, for example, if what some of us are envisaging, and when we look at economic drift, if you look at such a policy of that nature, for which if the president is able to ensure that all the facet of the policy is full blown, I'm telling you, there will be a lot of game change in terms of jobs, and it can balloon our growth in the short to medium term. And so for me, 30% should go for that, 30%. And it is going to be, if it is going to be a policy, it goes with secrecy, it goes with infrastructure, it goes with what do you call it, investment. So it's not just going to be just a paper policy that we normally know that will be fashionable. It's going to be retooling of the Ghanaian economy. So the president says, okay, we know this number of health workers who travel in the night to work. Now, we will need to put in this number of security personnel on the road. We need to maybe do BRT as it was done. This route should be meant for this. These are the number of buses we are bringing on board. Even if it means retooling some areas where we talk about a train network. This is how I think about it, because when you live outside, we have the privilege of staying outside, you realize that it is what is holding the UK's economy. And people would rather prefer to go to work in the night rather than daytime. So daytime, you see them sleeping, you see them do other things, but at night they will go to work. And there is also the economics advantage of running that in terms of doing business in the evening. So in terms of using energy consumption will come low. There will be the complex nature with which we rush in rush hours to go and do certain things also reduce. So for me, that alone can take 30 marks out of the entire 100. And so 70 over 100 for me I will give, because if you look at what is happening now, almost everything is done. But what I would want, which I think I haven't heard how the president is going to tackle that, is monitoring evaluation. Because in terms of policy framework, one of the important policy that ensure sustainability, continuity and growth is monitoring evaluation. So I think that the president could look at how this monitoring could be harnessed so that there will be a scorecard for us to look at all the policies that government has already done or approved. So, for example, Jumaura, how are you going to go about it? Who is supposed to do what? Who will be blamed if it doesn't go wrong? Who is supposed to ensure compliance? Right. How do we look at the end users? How do we measure impact? So these are very important ways that we can look at it. Then the other policies that the government has already done. For example, those ones which are very straightforward, those who are going to have free education in the first year. Some of our students, for example, as I teach in the university, we have realized that most of our students, some of them struggle in the first year to pay their fees. And so if this is going to be a relief to them, the question is, how would the government then measure impact at the national level? Where we have about 60,000 students coming in. This is how much has been spent. That is cost-wise. There is an opportunity cost behind the cost. Right. And so sometimes I would think that the government should have a high level of policy impact evaluator that begin to impact or evaluate all of this. And we'll see how maybe they can enhance it going forward. All right,
thank you very much. Mr. Rista, 3 minutes. Mohammed's first 120 day in office, the good, the bad, if there are any.
Well, so far so good. But on a lighter note, you know what the bad is?
No.
You see, some of us, we get remittances.
Charlie, this matter.
The dollar is going down.
Charlie. I'm not cutting short. I've been thinking about this. I teach students economics, and sometimes I was just lying there and I said, okay, Ghana, we crowding for the dollar should come down the dollar because we don't produce. Yeah. If we produce, it will have been injurious us as an economy. Yeah. We are import-driven economy, and so people begin to make money from other countries, and then we think that the dollar should come down, and we are spending the whole sums of money from Bank of Ghana to cushion the dollar to make sure they got. No, I don't think. For me, on my point of view, government should wheel infrastructure development, wheel industrial development. Right. Let's forget about the dollar.
Right.
Right. Seriously,
someone told me he's selling his dollar.
And I'm sure people who run for SBU, some of them may have run. Assuming you bought some dollars around 16 cities. You bought some dollars around 16 cities, then all of a sudden it's around 13.9.
No, it's even come 12 next week.
I'm hearing that by the end of the month, it could come to 10.
Oh, yes. There are a lot of...
Let's stay on this forex. I think it's a good thing for it to come down.
Yes.
You know, you look at a country like UAE.
Yeah.
For the past, up to 10 years, their dollar to the dinar has been 3.6.
Has stayed like that.
Yes. You see, I agree with you. When it is stable, you are able to plan.
Definitely.
But when it starts dropping the way it is,
no, because we have
this drop is very significant. 2.67.
No, but you see now, for instance, those of our compatriots who are having mortgages, a lot of people don't avail their mind to, are having to pay their mortgages in foreign currency.
Yeah, it's serious,
Look at the quantum of cedis that they had to find to go and change dollar to pay their mortgages. And invariably, most of them lost their houses because they couldn't. When dollar was 2 cedis to the dollar, you could just take 20,000 Ghana cedis.
Chairman, I agree with you. But I want to say that you see, the Bank of Ghana should have done that. But the rate at which it is you lost about 3 cedis already.
No, because you have consciousness our mind to be a dollar country. Where all that we do everything is about dollar. We are neglecting our local currency. We should do something about it. But like I said, when we develop the economy, when we become export-oriented or import
Yes.
substitution,
Yes.
you know,
You would rather want devaluation rather than appreciation of dollar.
money. Now, all of us are driving cars. Yeah. When petrol was 15 cedis or 50, some of them was 60. Charlie, when you go and stand by the pump, you take only 200 and put it in your car. Because it's too bad. Now, I'm sure that when you take the 200 cedis, to go and stand at the pump now, do you know the number of gallons?
You get a little more.
I'm not against that. Well, that's as it does on the lighter note. People are excited, but you see, it tells us that we've been able to achieve something.
And
at least because everything revolves around the economy.
Yeah.
Now, when I was part of the Agrics committee that wrote the manifesto, so I know exactly what is in there. That when we decide to roll out the agric sector thing, and we become self-sufficient in food, and we are able to now reduce food inflation.
Yeah.
Because you see, now that Burkina Faso says they are not part of Niger, they are not part of ECOWAS, and so we may have to even pay import duties when we are importing from their country and all of that. We have a lot of arable lands. If we decide to do our own farming and get our people on there and have farming brigade, we have farmers and fishermen service centers that are actively working in conjunction with the district assemblies.
Yeah.
Because the first thing we need to do is to make sure that we are food sustainable as a country.
Yeah.
Because that's a basic thing you need.
Yeah.
Then we move into infrastructure, roads and housing so that you are able to now accommodate your people properly. And I'm sure by the time we are done with 1 year, 2 years, because you see, governance is only 3 years.
Oh yeah, after the third, fourth
It's
year.
not 4 years, because the 4th year, you are supposed to be accounting to the people
What
as
you
to
have
what
done,
you have done.
Yeah, right.
You get it. So yes, you say you are elected on a 4-year mandate. Fortunately, President Mama did very well in appointing his ministers in a record time.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't have to spend a lot of time, because some have spent 6-7 months putting together a government. Now government is in place,
Right.
which is very good. You have the district chief executive. Some time ago it would have been in November before some chief executives are put in place. But I'm sure by the time we are half year, all chief executives will be in place. The local government system may have kicked off, and so they will be able to link up with other sectors, and then you have this local government sector growing. And I'm sure we may have a better feel of it.
Right. Thank you very much. Briefly, Chairman.
I think I agree with Doc. I would say probably 80%.
Yeah.
And the 20% left. 20% is about, after the 24 social contract, 18 are left to be done. The COVID levy is very important to rationalize the port. That is where we now have to make sure that the charges at the port, even though the dollar is coming down, it's helping them. But so there are certain charges that we have to remove from the port. And then the 24-hour economy. The 24-hour economy is very important. I always look at Tema Harbour. Tema Harbour, 5 p.m., they've shut down. Saturday and Sunday, nobody goes to work. And you see on the high seas, these boats that have really lined up and demurrage, they come and park, they have, that kind of thing. So you could do 3 shifts easily, And the night economy is very important. Of late, you can realize that people are now going out to enjoy themselves in the weekends. A few years back, you could go to Accra at 9 o'clock and everybody's asleep. So the restaurants, the beer bars and all those things, people were laughing when they said the beer bars will run 24 hours. You go to a certain country, in the morning, they have that bar or restaurant or whatever, nightclub, that's breakfast. In the afternoon, they'll do lunch. In the evening, they'll do dinner. And then from 9 o'clock, they do what? the clubbing.
Yeah.
24 hours.
Yes, right.
And that increases. People are making a mockery, but we have all traveled outside.
Yeah.
You go to Piccadilly in the night. When I was in UK, I used to work in the evening. I go to school in the morning, afternoon. All of us did cleaning. Anybody who says he never did cleaning in the UK or America, then he hasn't traveled. He hasn't gone through the mill. So by 5, 6 o'clock, you go and do cleaning. By 12, 1, you finish the cleaning, and you are coming home to sleep and start the morning. So you enjoy those kind of, and that is what has kept the economies going.
Right.
So we need to really, I'm sure by end of May, June, we'll have the policy statement on this thing. And like you said, we are going to have to increase security, that we are going to employ more security guys. The petrol stations who close down at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, we have to let them go. They are going to be provided with security. I mean, all these things will be a game changer. So, but then, like Neil said, at least after 1 year, we can come back here and look at from 7th January up to 7th January 2026,
right.
What has the level shifted? And I hope that Neil's fear about the dollar should be sustained. It should come down more to about 4 cedis.
Right. Thank you very much.
So that is remittances will be normal.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you, Rich Tanyama Matthew. Thank you, Dr. Jamal, and to our cherished viewers. Thank you so much for your time this morning. This is where we draw curtains on a beautiful conversation here on Good Morning Africa. I'll see you tomorrow. Do have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.
Truly African.